Raider Nation, let's set the stage. The Las Vegas Raiders are coming off an eventful offseason, with new head coach Pete Carroll and GM John Spytek making waves to turn this franchise around. After a disappointing 2024, the Silver and Black are hungry for a playoff push in 2025, and the defense is a massive part of that. But here's the kicker. While our defensive line, led by Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, is a force to be reckoned with, the secondary has some glaring question marks. Can our current roster lock it down, or do we need a big splash to solidify the back end? The Raiders have made some solid moves, no doubt. They've brought in versatile safety Jeremy Chinn and re-signed the promising Isaiah Polamau. But whispers around the league suggest there's still room for improvement. Cody Benjamin from CBS Sports dropped a bombshell, pointing to a potential free agent signing that could elevate this defense to elite status. Any guesses who he's talking about? Stick around, because this name is going to get you hyped. What makes this so intriguing is the connection between a current Raiders coach and a veteran star who's still on the market. The Raiders have the cap space, $38.06 million, to be exact, to make a bold move. So, Raider Nation, what do you think? Are we good with our current secondary? Or should we go all in for a proven playmaker? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's dive deeper into this potential game changer and why it's got everyone talking about the Raiders' 2025 season. All right, let's talk about the man of the hour, Justin Simmons, the former Denver Broncos safety who's still a free agent and could be the missing piece for the Raiders' defense. This guy is a three-time All-Pro, a proven ball hawk with 30 career interceptions and 70 passes defended. Imagine him patrolling the backfield in the silver and black. Simmons isn't just a name. He's a veteran leader who could bring stability to a secondary that's still figuring itself out. What makes this fit so perfect? It's all about the coaching connection. Raiders pass game coordinator Joe Woods was Simmons' first defensive backs coach in Denver. That's right. Woods knows exactly how to unlock Simmons' potential, from his instincts in coverage to his knack for making big plays. With Pete Carroll's history of turning defensive backs into stars, this feels like a match made in Raider heaven. But here's the catch. The Raiders have been conservative in free agency, opting for low-risk, high-reward signings. They've got faith in their current safety duo, but is that enough to compete in the AFC West? Simmons could be the veteran presence that ties it all together. Raider Nation, would you pull the trigger on a deal for Simmons, or are we riding with what we've got? Let's break down why the Raiders' secondary needs this kind of firepower and what Simmons could bring to the table. The Raiders' secondary is a mixed bag right now, and that's putting it nicely. On one hand, we've got Jeremy Chinn, a 6 feet 3 inches, 220-pound beast who's been turning heads in minicamp. Coach Patrick Graham can't stop raving about Chinn's leadership and physicality, speed, size, tackling, you name it. Chinn's versatility is a game changer. He's played safety, linebacker, and even slot corner, racking up over 1,000 snaps at multiple positions in his career. Then there's Isaiah Polamau, a 6 feet 4 inches safety who's stepping into a starting role for the first time in 2025. Polamau's shown flashes of brilliance, but he's admitted he needs to clean up his man coverage. Add in Lonnie Johnson Jr., another big-body defensive back at 6 feet 2 inches, 213 pounds, and you've got a physically imposing group. But here's the rub. None of these guys have the proven, consistent track record of a guy like Simmons. The Raiders have been experimenting with 3 safety looks, with Chinn often sliding into the nickel role due to a lack of depth at slot corner. This is where Simmons could shine, allowing Chinn to roam while he locks down the deep field. But is the front office ready to spend big on a safety when they're already high on their current group? What do you think, Raider Nation? Is our safety trio enough? Or does Simmons take us to contender status? Let's talk about the cornerback situation next, because that's where things get really dicey. If you thought the safety position had question marks, let's talk about the Raiders' cornerbacks. Right now, Jacorian Bennett and Darian Porter are penciled in as starters, with Eric Stokes also in the mix. Stokes, a former first-round pick from Green Bay, is a solid addition, but he's coming off an injury-plagued season. Porter, a rookie, has the size and potential, but is still raw, while Bennett's health is a lingering concern. The Raiders lost multiple cornerbacks in free agency, leaving the position thin. They've been linked to big names like Jair Alexander, who recently signed with the Ravens, and Jalen Ramsey, who's reportedly looking for a West Coast trade. But both those ships might have sailed, leaving the Raiders scrambling for answers. Darnay Holmes is currently the only viable slot corner, but his lack of starting experience is a red flag. This is where Pete Carroll's magic touch comes in. The man's built a career on coaching up defensive backs, from the Legion of Boom in Seattle to countless Pro Bowlers. But even Carroll might need more talent to work with. Could Simmons' versatility allow the Raiders to get creative with their defensive schemes? Raider Nation, do we need a star cornerback more than a safety like Simmons? Drop your take in the comments, because this debate is heating up. Let's zoom out and look at the big picture. The Raiders' defense is anchored by Max Crosby, arguably the best edge rusher in the NFL, and Christian Wilkins, a dominant force when healthy. The linebacker core got a boost with signings like Devin White and Jermaine Pratt, who fit Pete Carroll's aggressive, physical style. But the secondary? That's the weak link that could make or break this season. Pete Carroll and John Spytek have made it clear they're not here to rebuild. They want to win now. With $38.06 million in cap space, they've got the flexibility to make a splash. Simmons, with his experience and playmaking ability, could stabilize the back end and give Carroll the chess piece he loves to deploy in creative coverages. But here's the flip side. The Raiders' front office has leaned on calculated risks rather than big-ticket free agents. They passed on high-profile names like Jair Alexander and Jalen Ramsey, focusing instead on players like Chin and Stokes. Is this a sign they're confident in their current roster, or are they playing it too safe? What's the move, Raider Nation? Go big for Simmons, or trust the process with our young guns? Let's talk about how Simmons could fit into Pete Carroll's system next. Picture this: Justin Simmons in the silver and black, lining up next to Jeremy Chin and Isaiah Polamau. That's a secondary with size, speed, and smarts. Simmons has played in Joe Wood's system before, so he'd hit the ground running. His ability to play deep safety would let Chin roam as a nickel or box safety, creating mismatches all over the field. Pete Carroll's defenses thrive on versatility. Back in Seattle, he turned players like Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas into household names by letting them play to their strengths. Simmons, with his 4.4 speed and elite football IQ, could be the next in line. Plus, his leadership would rub off on younger players like Polamau, who's still finding his footing as a starter. But here's the million-dollar question. Is Simmons worth the price tag? His last contract with Denver was a 4-year, $61 million deal. And while he might not command that now, he won't come cheap. With the Raiders prioritizing cap flexibility, would they rather invest in a cornerback or stick with their current safety trio? Raider Nation, let's hear it. Would Simmons be the final piece of the puzzle, or are we overhyping this idea? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about what's been happening in minicamp, because the Raiders' secondary has been turning heads, for better or worse. Jeremy Chin has been a standout, showing off his leadership and physicality. Coach Graham called him a sponge for soaking up the defensive scheme, and his ability to play multiple roles has the coaching staff buzzing. Isaiah Polamau, meanwhile, is stepping into the spotlight as a full-time starter. He's been open about working on his man coverage, which is critical in today's pass-heavy NFL. Lonnie Johnson Jr. has also been part of 3 safety packages, giving the Raiders flexibility to experiment with new looks. But the lack of depth at nickel corner is a real issue, and that's where Simmons could make a difference. The Raiders have also been sniffing around other cornerbacks, like former Seahawk Shaquille Griffin, who visited but didn't sign. This shows they're still looking to upgrade the secondary. But are they looking in the right places? Simmons' experience could stabilize the entire unit, but the clock's ticking as training camp looms. What do you think, Raider Nation? Are we one veteran away from a lockdown secondary? Or is this group ready to prove itself? Let's look at the risks of signing Simmons next. Now, let's get real about the risks. Signing Justin Simmons sounds like a slam dunk, but there's always a catch. At 31 years old, Simmons isn't getting any younger, and while he's still a top-tier safety, his price tag could eat into the Raiders' cap space. With $38.06 million available, they've got room, but Spytek and Carroll have been cautious about big contracts. Then there's the question of fit. The Raiders are high on Jeremy Chin, who's already showing leadership and versatility. Adding Simmons could disrupt the chemistry they're building with Chin, Polamalu, and Johnson. Plus, if the Raiders are more concerned about their cornerback depth, would they be better off chasing a player like Mike Hilton or Rasul Douglas, who are also free agents? On the flip side, Simmons' track record speaks for itself. He's a two-time Pro Bowler with a knack for game-changing plays, and his familiarity with Joe Woods could make the transition seamless. The Raiders want to win now, and Simmons could be the veteran leader they need to make a playoff push. Raider Nation, weigh in. Is Simmons worth the risk, or should we stick with our young, hungry secondary? Let's talk about what this means for the 2025 season. As we head toward training camp in late July, the Raiders are at a crossroads. Pete Carroll's got this team fired up with a new energy that's got everyone talking about playoff run. The defense has the pieces to be special, but the secondary is the X factor. If Chin and Polamalu step up, and if Stokes and Porter hold down the corners, we could be looking at a top 10 unit. But imagine adding Simmons to the mix. A secondary with Chin's versatility, Polamalu's potential, and Simmons' veteran savvy could give Patrick Graham the tools to outsmart even the best offenses in the AFC. With Carroll's track record of building elite defenses, this could be the move that puts the Raiders back in the postseason conversation. The Raiders have been linked to other big names, but Simmons feels like the most realistic target. His connection with Joe Woods and the team's cap space make it a no-brainer on paper, but Spytek's conservative approach might keep this as just a dream. What's the vibe in Raider Nation? Are we ready to make a bold move, or are we trusting the process? Let's wrap this up with a look at what's next for the Silver and Black. Raider Nation, the 2025 season is shaping up to be a wild ride. The Las Vegas Raiders are building something special under Pete Carroll, but the secondary is the key to unlocking this team's potential. Justin Simmons could be the veteran leader to stabilize the back end, but with Jeremy Chin, Isaiah Polamalu, and Lonnie Johnson Jr. already in the fold, the Raiders have options. Training camp is just weeks away, and the decisions made now could define our season. Will the Raiders roll the dice on a big-name signing, or will they trust their young talent to step up? One thing's for sure, the Silver and Black are done playing small. With Max Crosby leading the charge and Pete Carroll's infectious energy, this team is ready to make noise. But we need your input, Raider Nation. Should we chase Justin Simmons, or are we good with what we've got? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe to the channel for all the latest Las Vegas Raiders news. Share this video with your fellow Raiders fans because the Silver and Black are back, and we're coming for that playoff spot. Let's keep the conversation going. What's the one move you want to see before training camp? Raider Nation, stay loud, stay proud, and let's ride into 2025 together. Just win, baby.